only gain or lose weight. You only gain or lose weight if your body tells you to gain or lose weight. And that's just because everything is run by hormones in our body, right? You don't grow without your hormones, right? You don't get any taller unless your hormones tell you to grow taller. Nothing happens in the body. That's how our body gets chemical messages. But for some reason, people in obesity medicine sort of ignore the whole role of hormones in that. So there are lots of different hormones that you have to consider. So insulin is one of the major ones you have to consider. That is to say that insulin is a hormone that tells your body to gain more fat.
Insulin itself isn't your enemy. The real problem begins with carbohydrates. It's their excessive consumption that raises blood glucose levels, which in turn triggers a surge of insulin and eventually leads to insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance is a term that's used because the blood glucose goes high and the body doesn't like it so high. So it makes more insulin to sort of allow it to go in. So one of the actions of insulin is to allow glucose to go from the blood into the cell so that the cell can use it for energy. Insulin resistance is a term that they use when they say, oh, well, there's lots of glucose in the blood and there's lots of insulin, so why is it not going into the cell? So they say the cell must be resistant to the effect of insulin.
It might seem that the most effective way to keep insulin in check is to cut out carbs completely or control insulin levels through fasting. But Dr. Fung revealed that there are clever tricks that let you hack your body without changing your diet, helping prevent major spikes in blood glucose and, in turn, large insulin surges. One of these tricks is simply changing the order in which you eat your food. This technique is often used by people with diabetes to control blood sugar levels. And according to research, it really works.
It turns out that the order in which you eat your food may make a big difference in how high your blood glucose goes as well. In 2015, some smart researchers did an early pilot study in people with type 2 diabetes. And these were people who were taking metformin, and they measured their blood glucose eating the same exact meal, but with the order of how they're eating switched up. So they took 11 patients and they gave them, on the one hand, the carbohydrates first, and that was consisting of bread and orange juice. And then they would wait 10 minutes and then they would serve them the protein and fat, which was skinless chicken breast and vegetables, a salad with a vinaigrette and steamed broccoli. And what they found was that there was a very big difference in the blood glucose, not only how high the glucose would go, but also in the blood insulin levels. In fact, the peak glucose was down a stunning 54%, and the insulin area under the curve, which is that part of the insulin that your body is seeing over time, decreased by 48%. That's a huge difference considering that the two meals were exactly the same. The only difference was, were you eating the carbs first or the carbs last? And when you ate the carbs last, that seemed to make a big, big difference for these people with type 2 diabetes.
The thing is, our digestion works much slower than we think. If you start your meal with proteins and fats, they act like a kind of traffic regulator for your digestive system. The carbs that follow get stuck, so to speak, in a traffic jam. That means no sudden insulin spike, no rapid breakdown or absorption. And even when your body finally gets to the carbs, insulin levels rise gently and in a controlled way. But the most important part is how this affects weight loss. Eating protein and fat first triggers a natural release of the GLP-1 hormone, which signals fullness. You feel satisfied for longer with fewer cravings, especially for sweets. This trick is especially helpful for people who struggle with significant weight issues and find it hard, both mentally and physically, to change their diet. Because in reality, you're not depriving yourself or forcing any drastic changes. You're simply helping your body eat smarter. You naturally eat less, stay full longer, and keep your blood glucose levels steady.
If eating the exact same number of calories, eating the exact same foods, but simply switching the orders means that we can face 40% less glucose. That means we might be able to prevent the onset of type 2 diabetes. We might be able to take less medications. We may be able to lose weight because, again, that lower level of insulin is going to cause less weight gain. And what it means is that you really have to front load your meals so that you're taking your proteins and your fats and your vegetables right up front and then leaving the carbohydrates to the end. The best effect is if you're going to be even able to wait a few minutes. In the study, they waited 10 minutes before serving so that it's like one of those restaurants where you get an appetizer and then you wait and then you have dinner. Well, in this case, front load the proteins and fats. And there's a second benefit because once you eat those proteins and fats, maybe you don't want to have those carbohydrates after all.
Another way to reduce the impact of carbohydrates is to pair them with organic acids. In other words, eat them with foods like kefir, yogurt, or butter, which contain lactic acid, or with olive oil, which provides fatty acids, or even with vinegar, which contains acetic acid. These acids interact with the enzymes in your saliva, slowing down the breakdown of carbohydrates several times over, effectively lowering the glycemic index of the carbs you eat.
If you take the bread, you can see that the area under the curve or the glycemic index are both higher. Glycemic index of 71. When you eat it with the butter or with olive oil, for example, you can drop it to 50, which is almost a 1/3 drop in the glycemic index simply by taking some olive oil with the bread. So the traditional way that some people do with the olive oil and the vinegar and dipping it can be very useful. The acid is going to slow down the digestion by blocking those salivary amylases, and the olive oil makes it gives the intestines something else other than the pure carbohydrate.
From a weight loss point of view, this also helps solve the problem of hunger and satiety. You naturally extend your body's fasting window, the period when fat is used as the main source of energy. But most importantly, it helps optimize insulin. Even a small reduction in insulin spikes can lead to a noticeable difference on the scale. It also makes sense to help your body burn off extra energy after eating. In other words, to nudge it physiologically toward using stored fat for fuel. To do that, Dr. Fung recommends a 30-minute walk after each meal. This helps regulate blood glucose levels, but more importantly, activates your body's energy burning mode. What do most people do after eating? They lie down, watch TV, or relax, all of which send a signal to the body to store energy, switching it into energy-saving mode. But if you take even a short walk, you flip that switch in the opposite direction, into fat-burning mode. It's a small, simple activity that can make a big difference in your metabolism.
After you've eaten a meal, there's all this glucose. And when you walk, you're going to encourage your muscles to start burning that glucose rather than storing it away. And because you don't want to store as much of it away, your insulin levels are going to fall. So, for example, in this study, they found that when you had a walk before the meal, it didn't really do much to the blood glucose. You see that the blood glucose there is about 6.5 after the meal. However, if you walk immediately after the meal, it's going to go right down to about 5.6 or so. So it's actually a significant drop. If you wait 30 minutes, it's sort of in between, and the longer you wait after the meal, the less effect you're going to get.
Of course, with Dr. Jason Fung's tricks, you won't lose a massive amount of weight in just a few days. But this is a comfortable, effortless weight loss strategy. In fact, by following these tips, you'll naturally end up on a low-carb diet without even trying. As your metabolism returns to normal, the extra weight will gradually start to melt away before your eyes.
Let's start with number one. This is one that I think people know, the junk food carbs. I'm talking about the bread, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, things like that. And of course, sugar right before bed. There's something that happens that really can throw off your sleep cycles. And the main hormone that works at night in little spikes called growth hormone gets blunted with this rise in blood sugar. Growth hormone is the main fat-burning hormone. It's the hormone that helps you repair the tissues, especially protein. It's the hormone that actually helps you gain muscle mass and has a lot to do with repair. And if you're going to shut that thing down with glucose, it can't work. And so that's one thing you need to know, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Let's say you had this incredible workout during the day. Well, you just nullified the results with that sugar right before bed. The other thing that happens when you eat sugar is it creates a spike in blood sugar. Typically, you're not eating through the night, right? This is the time that you fast. And then people wake up and have breakfast. They break the fast. And then usually they eat 3 meals with some snacks. And then they fast again at night. But if you're having sugar before bed, you are creating a roller coaster in blood sugar. What do you think that might do to your sleep? The purpose of sleep is basically to help you detoxify and actually clean up the body during this period of rest. And so you may find yourself getting up through the night, especially at 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock, and it can just ruin your sleep. And then also in the morning, a lot of times people will have something called the dawn phenomena, which you have this spike in blood sugar in the morning that has to do with the liver making more sugar. The big problem with this is the next day, okay? You don't have the energy that you want. You wake up feeling groggy, you're feeling irritated, and anytime you have poor sleep, it's going to affect your blood sugar as well. So you're going to be looking around for something sweet and something to snack on if you didn't get a good night's sleep. And so you're setting yourself up for this entire pattern of going off your program, having a difficult time sticking to, just keeping off carbs. It makes it very difficult. Number 2, using screens or lights, especially blue or any light, 2 hours before you go to bed. You have to realize there's a hormone that actually puts pressure in your body to go to sleep, and that's called melatonin. Melatonin is suppressed with light, especially blue light. The function of melatonin is not just to help you go to sleep. Melatonin is a very powerful antioxidant. It's even more important than glutathione as far as detoxification and in helping repair DNA. Not to get into anything technical, but they measure kind of the intensity of a light by something called lux. And I want you to think of lux as kind of like how bright the light is. All it takes is 8 lux, just a tiny bit of light, to suppress melatonin. Your smartphone, a 30 lux, and so you're really suppressing a lot of melatonin if you're in front of your cell phone. It's going to take longer and longer to get into the restful sleep cycles. And so we don't get the full benefits of hormone restoration, repair, DNA repair. And on top of that, this blue light suppresses the deep delta wave sleep and also something called the REM sleep. And if you even think about like shift workers, it's really, really hard on their body. Regular shift work is even considered a probable carcinogen in what it does to the immune system, specifically of the breast, the prostate, and the colon. Trying to sleep with just a moderate amount of light is mimicking metabolic syndrome just by this light interfering with your sleep. It's very interesting. The best thing to do is about an hour before you go to bed, dim the lights. You can wear blue blockers that can help, but it's really best to avoid not only the computer screens and things like that, but also any bright lights. Keep things as dim as possible. Number 3, using alcohol to fall asleep. Alcohol is tricking you into going to sleep, but you're not really sleeping. Your body's not focused on repairing, rejuvenating, detoxifying at all. It has to detoxify the alcohol, thus the hangovers that people feel when they get up from drinking alcohol. The real big thing with alcohol is that you just do not get the cleaning, the detoxification, or the repair of your body like you should, thus not getting the benefits of sleep. Alcohol also raises cortisol, adrenaline. It puts stress signals into the body. It tends to also deplete electrolytes, but especially depleting you of vitamin B1, which then the next day you're going to have anxiety. You're going to have this nervous tension. You can't relax. B1 is all about brain, nerve, calm, feeling restful. Couple things I recommend to do instead: take magnesium glycinate in warm water and sip that before you go to bed, because the magnesium will help relax the muscles and cortisol, but the glycinate part of magnesium glycinate will increase GABA in the brain and really help you sleep. And maybe kombucha tea might also help you because it mimics the texture of beer. It has actually a slight bit of alcohol, but it's very, very, very insignificant. Don't use alcohol at night. Now, in the morning, totally fine, and I'm being very sarcastic. Let's get to number 4, late night junk food. I'm talking about mainly the seed oils, like fried foods. It could also be chips. A lot of times people need salt before bed, and they consume chips and crackers, salty popcorn. But if it's potato chips fried in grease, the seed oils are inflammatory. And when you go to bed after you ate something either fried or with seed oils, it's going to be really hard on the gallbladder. You're going to go to bed bloated. Your digestion is going to send signals to your brain, it's time to wake up, and it's not going to help you go to sleep. So you will not be able to sleep restful if you're going to bed with a bloated stomach with seed oils. The seed oils are also going to affect your gallbladder and bile duct to the point where you might feel kind of nauseous, bloated, burping before bed. I've been there, done that. I have the t-shirt. I used to live on fried foods more than most people. And so if you're eating a lot of oxidative seed oils, you're kind of neutralizing this melatonin to the point where it's going to lower the effect of what it's supposed to do, help you detoxify and repair your brain and body. One thing that I would highly recommend is you could just take sea salt and put a little bit in your mouth if you crave salt. Don't consume it with a chip because we don't need the carbohydrates. But a lot of people will sleep better if they have a little more salt. The best thing to do is at your dinner time earlier is to add a little more salt so you don't crave any salt at night. But when you're low in sodium, that alone can actually raise cortisol, believe it or not. And so seed oils also put the liver in overdrive. So if the liver is working hard to deal with that, it can't actually help you detoxify the rest of the body. Just notice the next time you have seed oils in the evening, just notice when you wake up in the morning how you feel. You probably are going to feel a lot more stiff and achy or inflamed because that's exactly what these seed oils do. They create inflammation. They're highly inflammatory. Number 5, taking sedating antihistamines or sleeping pills before bed. Now, my disclaimer is I'm not telling you not to take. I'm just going to give you my 2 cents on it. Rarely are you going to feel rested when you wake up in the morning. So you're getting kind of a fake sleep, which is not a real rejuvenating, wonderful refreshment sleep that you should get if you use more natural things, because you're artificially using a drug to put you into a sedated state. And so you just kind of wake up feeling pretty groggy and very. There's been data and research to show that the side effects are less focus, concentration, and memory the next day. And also, the other thing is that it takes more and more of that drug to create the same effect. So you start off taking 1 pill, and then you need 2, and then 3, and then you might get some side effects after that. So I remember one time I was really desperate to go to sleep. I took some over-the-counter sleep medication. Not only did I not sleep, but I felt just kind of like dull and tired. I will never do that again. Next one is sleeping next to your cell phone. Some people sleep with their cell phone underneath their pillow or very close to their head. You have to realize that the charging cable and the phone both give off electromagnetic fields. This bad energy can affect your brain and also your ability to go through these sleep cycles. They also have a huge effect on blunting melatonin, again, inhibiting your ability to get tired and also sleep deeply and getting restorative sleep. There's been a lot of research in this area with phones too close to your ear when you're talking or in your pockets, but having them next to your head when you're sleeping is not a good idea. I would highly recommend putting your cell phone on airplane mode or keeping it away from your body when you're sleeping, and especially if you're recharging it. And the last one, just sleep deprivation itself, not getting enough sleep. I'm guilty of that. I would push myself because I had so much work to get done. I wanted to be productive. I thought if I just get more work done and sleep less, I'll be ahead of the game. With my physical body suffering from the years of just not sleeping and not getting enough sleep, trying to get by on 5 hours or 6 hours or even 6.5 hours is just not enough. you need actually more than 7 hours. 7.5 to 8 would be ideal. I recommend 10 o'clock, 10:30, maybe 10:45, maybe 11 at the latest. But you have to realize when you start going to bed closer to 12, you kind of miss this whole circadian rhythm where you may start waking up more. Now you have to wait a period of time before you're tired again because your whole body is on this cycle. I mean, less than 6 hours of sleep creates a 70% drop in killer T cells. This is why a lack of sleep increases your risk for cancer as well as viral infections, and why nighttime workers really have a spike in cancer risk. You also don't get the toxins to be purified, so now we get a higher risk of dementia. We really spike our risk for getting diabetes. I mean, there's one research study that showed that 6 days of getting only 4 to 5 hours of sleep will give someone insulin resistance if they didn't have it before. And if they already had insulin resistance, it could actually make you into a pre-diabetic. Sleep affects blood sugars that much. Many men, especially when they get older, start losing their testosterone, they develop erectile dysfunction. Sleep would be the first thing they should go after to repair and fix. So basically, when you're not sleeping, you're turning off all these survival genes that your body has. All right, now that you know 7 dangerous habits, this next video is going to give you all the information you need to have the most awesome sleep that you've ever had so you can wake up and feel refreshed. And I put this video up right here. Check it out. Do not baking soda unless you watch this video. Baking soda has the potential to help or even poison you. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. It's an alkaline compound. And guess what? Your body makes it. Your pancreas makes it. As the strong acid comes from your stomach into the small intestine, if that pancreas does not release enough sodium bicarbonate, you don't get any of the benefits from the enzymes coming from the pancreas to help you digest fats and other things. This is why when someone's pancreas is not working, can get severe bloating, they get diarrhea, they get constipation. We need a really strong acid stomach, and then we need an alkaline small intestine. Let's talk first about the benefits of baking soda. Baking soda, being an alkaline substance, can be beneficial for temporarily relieving an acid stomach. I have to clarify something because when we talk about an acid stomach, a lot of things come up. You might have like GERD, acid reflux. All those things are a little bit different because you never want to take baking soda when you have indigestion. Indigestion is like this backup of food, just you feel like your stomach is like cramping. That is a classic low acid or a lack of acid situation. So of course, adding more baking soda is just gonna go from bad to worse. Anytime you have indigestion, you need to take either apple cider vinegar or something called betaine hydrochloride. It'll fix it really fast. But when we get into more of an acidic stomach, whether it is acid reflux or GERD, if you wanted some temporary relief as you fix the problem, a little bit of baking soda would help you, but just a little bit, because usually those problems are also a lack of acid. But the baking soda will at least put the fire out and make you feel more comfortable. But then you would also want to do apple cider vinegar and or betaine hydrochloride. Now, what about gastritis? You would want to take baking soda for sure, but also take something called zinc carnosine so you can actually heal that problem. But you just need to understand that the normal pH of the stomach is between 1 and 3. That is like battery acid. And just don't get in the habit of taking baking soda for a long period of time because you're going to neutralize your stomach acids. And now you're going to end up with an inability to digest protein, the inability to absorb B12, an inability to absorb minerals, and also you're not going to be able to kill off any type of microbes or pathogens that might be in your food. Now, if you take baking soda for a long time, chronically, is there really a chance of your blood becoming too alkaline? And the answer is probably not, because the effect that baking soda has on our bodies is very temporary. If your body is too alkaline, you're going to have some issues with your muscles because of how that affects the electrolytes. Another really good benefit of baking soda is to help to neutralize the acid in your mouth from the bacteria that is forming these little biofilm tartar plaquing situations. situations. So baking soda could be one of the ingredients in your toothpaste, and I actually show you how to make that. I will put that link down below. But ultimately, you got to get the sugar out of the diet because sugar is what's making that acid. Another benefit of baking soda is to relieve itching from a kidney problem. When your kidney becomes damaged, you start developing too much acid, and that can affect your skin, especially itching, among other symptoms. One of the great antidotes to that is to take something to neutralize the acid and takes the stress off the kidney. In fact, some people with kidney problems even take some baking soda to prolong going on dialysis, because when the kidneys are damaged, it can't regulate the pH anymore like it used to, because a diseased kidney will make more acids. Now, another way I would use baking soda is, let's say, for example, you're doing prolonged fasting or even intermittent fasting and you're a carnivore, you're doing a lot of meat, and then you start feeling this acidity coming up through your stomach. Some baking soda here and there can help chill that out, especially if you're trying to sleep at night and it's kind of coming up through your esophagus. Another unique beneficial way to take baking soda is if you're an athlete and you're going to compete in some sport and you wanted the unfair advantage, you wanted to be able to do more reps, you wanted to go a little longer, you want a little better performance and less lactic acid buildup, which can actually stop from using your muscles, especially with high intensity type activities. Because if you take all of it at once and feel nauseous, we want to avoid that. If you really want to know how much you should take, it's 0.2 grams per kilogram of weight. Another benefit of baking soda is to help prevent kidney stones. So if you're susceptible to kidney stones, you can take some baking soda because uric acid dissolves in baking soda. And this is why baking soda is also good in a gout situation, at least as a temporary action. Of course, ultimately, you'd want to avoid any type of fructose, high fructose corn syrup, especially. Another way you can take baking soda is if you have a UTI. It'll actually change the environment so the microbes or the pathogens can't exist anymore. And then the last benefit of baking soda would be some topical applications for some type of insect bite. If the insect's venom is alkaline, that could make you worse. There are two insects that have an acid venom. So applying baking soda would help that. Ants, especially fire ants, and bee stings would benefit from putting some topical baking soda on the actual sting bite. So just get some wet and apply it to your skin. If you get stung by a wasp, do not put baking soda on that because those venoms are more alkaline. You add more alkaline and you're going to make it worse. What you should put on that is vinegar. A spider bite, don't put baking soda on that. The best thing to put on that is either activated charcoal or bentonite clay, which has the power of like pulling things out of the skin. And then a snake bite. The best antidote for that is something called milk thistle. And as a side note, baking soda is also really good for insects, especially cockroaches, because if you add sugar with baking soda and you leave it out for the cockroaches, they'll eat it. Then from the chemical reaction, you'll get carbon dioxide and their digestive systems will rupture and they will die. Okay, so that would be a natural way to get rid of these insects so you don't have these insecticides around your house. The other thing you need to know about baking soda is you never want to take it with vinegar or a lemon juice because it's just going to create so much carbon dioxide. Your stomach is to blow up with carbon dioxide. Not a good idea. And I think you already know this too. You can open a container of baking soda and keep it in the fridge and it gets rid of the odors. So now that you know a little bit more about this home remedy baking soda, you should check out my apple cider vinegar video right here. Today we're going to talk about the absolute #1 best meal to prevent heart attacks and a stroke. There's something very unique about heart attacks and strokes. 80 to 90% of heart attacks are clots. Now, you might think like this plaque that builds up. No, most of heart attacks come from clots. And 87 to 91% of strokes also come from clots. And the meal we're going to talk about today really has to do with preventing these clots. And this information today is based on the works from Professor Douglas Kell, genius, okay? I will put a link down below referencing some of his information, but he stumbled on something very fascinating relating to dormant microbes. And a lot of these dormant microbes are actually pathogenic, okay? They create disease, but they're asleep and they're waiting for an opportunity to come back alive. I mean, even in the winter, for example, you have all these microbes in the soil that become frozen, but they're going into this dormant mode or a spore mode, and they're waiting until the season to change where they can come out and thrive. So this is what you need to know. Normally, when a clot forms, whether you cut yourself on your finger or something happens internally, you have certain things that come in there, certain proteins that form a clot. And then right after that, once it heals, it dissolves. Sometimes within minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes a little bit longer. This is a normal clotting process. If we didn't have this survival mechanism, we would bleed to death. However, in certain circumstances, especially with heart attacks, the normal clotting process changes over into some. If we add a little sauerkraut, just a little bit, maybe like a fourth of a cup, then we're going to add lactic acid bacteria, which actually binds with these endotoxins and helps neutralize them. Now, there's other ways to get lactic acid. You can do a little kombucha tea. You can add the juice from pickles, for example. So sauerkraut is not the only way to get lactic acid. But let's not stop there. Let's add some more polyphenols to bind with the excess iron, because the free iron is really at the core of this clotting problem. So if we added either green tea or black tea, we can bind up some of that iron. If we also add a little dark chocolate at the end, now you can either get the 85% or 90% dark chocolate and add that to the meal, just a little bit, which can actually bind this iron because it's loaded with polyphenols. But also dark chocolate is loaded with magnesium, which will also help the arteries and the heart, because heart problems are really related to too much calcium and not enough magnesium. Magnesium is one of the best things for atrial fibrillation and also to help lower blood pressure. You can even take this dark chocolate powder and put it in your coffee in the morning. That's what I do. Just a little bit, dissolve it up and drink that down for the polyphenols. After you've eaten the meal, okay, go for a 10-minute or a 20-minute post-meal walk while you breathe through your nose. Nasal breathing increases nitric oxide and actually enhances the oxygen, and exercise itself can help dissolve clots. Not to mention help your blood sugars be balanced better, not to mention increase more oxygen into the body. And so the combination of this meal with this exercise is going to greatly reduce your risk of both heart attacks and strokes. All right, now that you understand a little bit more about clots, the next most important thing to really learn about is the powerful effects of magnesium on the cardiovascular system. And for that information, I put this video up right here. Check it out.
In America, the average healthy lifespan ends at 66. That means for most people, everything after that is pills, procedures, and losing independence year after year. But in Japan, they have got over 95,000 people aged 100 and older who are still active, still sharp, and still walking to the grocery store without help. So what's their secret? It's not magic. It's not perfect genetics. And no, it's not expensive supplements. Since 1928, Japan has had a nationwide morning movement routine, a simple set of 6 gentle exercises practiced by kids, adults, and seniors alike. No equipment, no gym, just 15 minutes a day. That adds decades of strength, balance, and confidence. In this video, I'll break down those 6 exact movements, step by step, show you how to do them properly at any fitness, and most importantly, how they help you age stronger, not slower. Before we get started, drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Number 1, Shikodachi, the sumo stance. Let's kick things off with a movement that's been used by Japan's most powerful athletes for over 1,500 years. It's called Shikodachi, or the sumo stance, and it's not just for wrestlers. This posture builds the exact leg strength older adults need for everyday life, getting out of chairs, climbing stairs, keeping balance, and preventing falls. Here's how to do it. Stand with your feet twice shoulder width apart. Turn your toes outward at a 45-degree angle. Now slowly lower your hips like you're sitting between your legs, not behind them. Keep your spine straight and your chest open. Place your hands on your thighs for support if needed. At first, just hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. If you feel shaky, stand near a wall or hold onto a sturdy chair. As you get stronger, work up to 1-2 minutes. You'll feel it in your quads, glutes, and inner thighs, muscles most people over 50 have lost touch with. Why does this matter? Because those are your independence muscles. When they're strong, you move it like someone 20 years younger. When they're weak, that's when stairs become scary. Biomechanics studies have shown this stance actually activates more leg muscles than regular squats, but with less joint strain. In the wide open hip angle, it helps undo decades of stiffness from sitting too much. Master this one move and you'll build the foundation for all the others. Next up, we're going to test your balance in a completely different way with a posture inspired by a cat getting ready to leap. Number 2, Nekawashi Dachi, the cat stance. If Shikodachi gave you a solid foundation, this next move wakes up the part of your body that quietly saves you from injury every single day, your balance system. Nekawashi Dachi, or the cat stance, comes from traditional karate and mimics the way a cat gently tests the ground before pouncing. It's graceful, subtle, and surprisingly powerful for your ankles, hips, and core. Here's how to do it. Start by standing with one foot slightly forward. The ball of your front foot lightly touches the ground like a cat pawing the floor. Your back foot stays fully planted, carrying about 70% weight. Both knees are gently bent, and your hips stay square facing. It'll feel weird at first, and that's the point. This activates deep stabilizer muscles most people haven't used in years. It sharpens your ankle control, strengthens the arch of your foot, and lights up the core to keep you upright. These are the exact muscles that help you avoid slips and falls on uneven surfaces. Start by holding for 20-30 seconds on each side next to a wall or chair for safety. Over time, add small weight shifts or slow arm movements to challenge your stability. Bonus Japanese therapists often prescribe this stance to retrain balance after injury. That's how effective it is. Once you get comfortable here, we'll take things down to the floor and discover how a centuries-old sitting position can realign your posture better than any back brace ever could. Number 3, Seiza, proper sitting posture. Let's take it to the floor, but don't worry, this one isn't about flexibility or pain. It's about resetting your posture from the ground up, just like the Japanese have done for centuries. Seiza, which means proper sitting, was once the standard way people sat during meals, tea ceremonies, and meditation. Today, it's a gentle but powerful way to stretch the muscles that cause most posture problems after 50. Here's how to do it. Kneel on a mat or soft surface. Keep your knees together and fold your feet underneath you so the tops of your feet rest on the floor. Then slowly sit back onto your heels, keeping your back tall and relaxed. Feel tight in the knees or ankles. Totally normal. Just place a firm cushion or a yoga block between your heels and hips. That tiny adjustment makes a big difference. Why does this matter? Because the seated position stretches tight hip flexors and quads, the exact muscles that pull your body into that or hunched over aged posture. It also activates your deep core and spinal stabilizers, unlike sitting in a chair where those muscles basically shut off. Start with just 30 seconds to 1 minute and gradually build to 3-5 minutes a day. Do it while watching TV or meditating, and it'll quietly start to reshape how you sit, stand, and walk. And now that your posture is waking up, it's time to tap into something deeper, both physically and mentally. The next movement isn't just for your body, it's for your brain and nervous system. Number 4, Zazen, seated meditation. Now that you've started to unlock better posture with Seiza, let's go deeper, not just into your hips and spine, but into your nervous system itself. Zazen, which literally means seated meditation, is more than just sitting still. It's a powerful isometric posture that comes from Zen monasteries where monks would hold it for hours a day, not just for spiritual clarity, but for physical strength and endurance. Here's how to set up: sit on the floor in a cross-legged position. If you can do full or half lotus, great. If not, a simple crisscross seat is perfect. Now place a firm cushion under your hips. This slight elevation makes it easier to keep a naturally tall spine. Imagine a string lifting the top of your head toward the ceiling. Your shoulders relax, your chin slightly tucks, hands rest gently in your lap. Now breathe, that's it. But don't be fooled, this position activates your deep core, including the transverse abdominis and multifidus muscles, which protect your spine and improve balance. Meanwhile, the hips get a deep stretch, especially if you sit consistently each day. But here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show that Zazen stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your brain that tells the body you're safe now. Heal. This helps lower cortisol, calm the mind, and even promote cellular repair. Start with 5-10 minutes a day, focusing on slow, natural breathing. Over time, aim for 15 to 20 minutes. You'll feel a shift not just in your spine, but in how you handle stress, sleep, and even pain. And once your core is awake and your nervous system is on your side, it's time to rebuild true strength from the legs up with a stance designed by samurai. Number 5, Kibadachi, the horse stance. If Zazen tuned up your inner strength, Kibadachi is where we bring it outward with a powerful grounded stance used by samurai warriors and karate masters to train for battle. But today, you're not training for war, you're training for independence. Kibadachi means horse stance, and it mimics the stable position of sitting on horseback. It's designed to build deep leg strength, lateral stability, and awaken muscles most people stop using after age 50. Here's how to do it. Stand with your feet a little wider than shoulder width, about 1 extra foot on each side. Keep your feet parallel, not turned out. Bend your knees and lower your hips as if sitting into an invisible chair. Your spine stays tall, core engaged, and your arms relaxed by your sides. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds and repeat 2 to 3 times. Over time, aim for 1-2 minutes per round. Feel the burn, that's your quads, adductors, glutes, and deep hip stabilizers all firing at once. Why does this matter? Because these are the muscles that prevent side-to-side falls, improve how your hips and knees track together, and support joint health in the long run. Studies even show Kibadachi improves proprioception, your body's sense of space and movement, something that naturally declines with age. Train this consistently and you'll feel more stable walking on uneven surfaces, stepping off curbs, or getting out of bed. Now to tie it all together, we'll end with one final move. It's not ancient, but it's the perfect blend of modern science and ancestral wisdom. And it will show you just how strong your legs have truly become. Number 6, wall squat, invisible chair. We've built your foundation, fired up your balance, reset your posture, awakened your core, and grounded your strength. Now it's time to test the whole system with a deceptively simple movement that many trainers call the Great Revealer. Enter the wall squat, also known as the invisible chair. It's not traditional Japanese, but it's widely used by modern Japanese physiotherapists and coaches, especially in rehab and senior fitness programs. Why? Because it activates everything you've been working on all at once without requiring any equipment. Here's how to do it. Stand with your back flat against the wall, feet about 12 inches forward and shoulder width apart. Slowly slide down the wall until your knees are bent at a 90-degree angle, like you're sitting in an invisible chair. Make sure your knees are stacked over your ankles, not shooting past your toes. Now, hold. Start with 30 seconds breathing deeply and evenly. Gradually work up to 2 to 3 minutes over time. You'll feel it in your quads, glutes, hamstrings, and core. But the real magic is what's happening inside. Studies show that wall squats stimulate slow twitch muscle fibers, the ones responsible for endurance and postural support. These muscles are key for standing longer, walking farther, and reducing knee pain. Even better, wall squats promote capillarization, blood vessel growth, improve circulation to the legs, and have been linked to maintaining bone density, a huge factor in preventing osteoporosis. Pro tip, place a soft ball or pillow between your knees and gently squeeze it during the hold. This fires up your inner thigh muscles and encourages better knee alignment. This movement is also your progress tracker. If you start at 30 seconds and 1 month later, you're holding for 2 minutes, your body is telling you you're getting stronger. And here's the best part. No gym, no impact, no excuses. Now that you've learned all 6 movements, I'm going to show you exactly how to put them together into a real-life routine that takes just 5 minutes a day and could transform how you move for the next 20 years. Don't go anywhere. This is the part that makes all the difference. You've made it to the end, and now you've got something powerful in your hands. Not 6 movement, but a system that's helped tens of thousands of Japanese adults stay strong, independent, and pain-free deep into their 80s, 90s, and even past 100. And here's the best part. You don't need to do all 6 every day. Let me show you a realistic routine that fits into busy lives and tired bodies. Just 5 to 7 minutes a day. Morning, 2.5 minutes total. Start with 30 seconds of Seiza. Gently stretch and realign your posture. Move into 1 minute of Zazen. Activate your core and calm your mind. Finish with 30 seconds per leg of Neko Ashidachi. Wake up your balance system. Evening, 4 minutes total. Begin with 1 minute of Shikodachi. Reopen tight hips and legs after a long day. Shift into 1 minute of Kibadachi. Strengthen legs and lateral stability. End with a 2-minute wall squat, your personal progress check-in. That's it. No gym, no pressure, no excuses. Just a few intentional minutes that compound daily into strength, balance, and confidence. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being better than yesterday. That's the Japanese mindset of Kaizen's small, consistent improvements that lead to big changes over time. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment with your first name, age, and where you're watching from. I read every one, and I'll be choosing a few to send a printable cheat sheet of all 6 moves. Your future self will thank you for starting today.
What if your nerves could repair themselves naturally? It sounds unbelievable, but science says it might actually be possible. There is a vitamin that plays a key role in nerve regeneration, reducing pain and slowing down aging from the inside out. It's not vitamin D or vitamin B12, it's vitamin B3, also known as niacinamide. Vitamin B3 is one of the essential nutrients your body needs to function properly. It helps produce a molecule called NAD+, which provides energy to every single cell in your body, including your nerve cells. Without enough NAD+, your nerves cannot repair damage or communicate effectively. As we age, our NAD+ levels drop dramatically, leading to inflammation, fatigue, and slow nerve recovery. That's why maintaining vitamin B3 levels is crucial for healthy aging and nerve function. There are 3 main forms of vitamin B3: niacin, niacinamide, and nicotinamide riboside. All of them help increase NAD+ in the body, but research shows that niacinamide and nicotinamide riboside are especially effective for protecting and repairing nerve cells. In 2017, scientists discovered that boosting NAD+ levels helped damaged nerves regenerate faster in animal studies. Another study showed that vitamin B3 protected nerve cells from damage caused by chemotherapy. In a genetic nerve disease model called Charcot-Marie-Tooth, niacin improved the electrical activity of damaged nerves. How does it work? It boosts NAD+ inside the nerve cells, reduces oxidative stress, which causes nerve inflammation, and strengthens the mitochondria, the tiny energy engines inside the cells. All these effects combined help the nerves recover faster and stay stronger. Human studies are also showing exciting results. In one published in JAMA Ophthalmology, patients with optic nerve damage took niacinamide and showed significant improvement in nerve function. Other trials are now testing nicotinamide riboside for repairing small fiber neuropathy. These are real scientific studies, not hype, not marketing, actual data that show how this vitamin supports nerve repair. But before you rush to buy a supplement, it's important to know how to use it safely. Most studies use between 100 and 150 milligrams of niacinamide, taken 3 to 6 times daily, spaced evenly throughout the day. Smaller, frequent doses are better than one large dose. It's also important to avoid alcohol and ensure you get enough protein in your diet. If you have liver issues or take medications, talk to your doctor before starting. Niacin can cause skin flushing at high doses, but niacinamide usually doesn't. Combine this vitamin with a balanced lifestyle, healthy food, regular movement, proper hydration, and good sleep. Because nerve health isn't just about one supplement, it's about your entire lifestyle. If you're over 50, your body's ability to repair nerves naturally declines. But by supporting your NAD+ levels with vitamin B3, you can help your body restore its own healing process. Imagine waking up with less tingling, less numbness, more strength, and mental clarity. That's what optimal nerve function can feel like. Vitamin B3 might not be a magic pill, but it's one of the most powerful tools nature has given us to protect and rejuvenate the nervous system. Science shows it doesn't just slow damage, it may actually help the body rebuild from within. So can a vitamin really repair nerves? The answer might surprise you. Maybe not completely, but it can give your body what it needs to do so naturally. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more science-based health videos. Stay healthy, stay curious, and keep learning how to age powerfully.
The benefits of drinking clove water at night. Let's talk about this. Cloves at one time were worth more than gold. This is what they look like. You can see it in this little jar right here. They're these little tiny structures. A lot of people might have had these in like ham, and they're sold as a spice, and you have them already. You just need to know how to use them and what they're good for. They were so valuable, they were exchanging them with gold. Amazing. They've been used in China for over 2,000 years for certain medicines. They were also used in the Black Plague. When you might have seen pictures of those people with those long masks, and they'd be basically burning certain herbs and would breathe in the vapors. Well, one of the spices they used was clove because of its antiviral and antibacterial properties. Also, in early dentistry, before they had certain medications that numbed the tooth problem, they use clove oil. I mean, in fact, even with minor surgeries, they use clove oil because of its analgesic effect. Very nerve is exposed, it will help numb that nerve. Now, the cool thing about this is there's virtually no side effects. It has antibacterial, antifungal, anti-candida, antiviral properties. In addition to numbing the tooth or numbing pain, it can also go after the microbes that are growing there, whether it's a fungal, candida, bacterial, or virus. And where I found this information was in certain patents using oil of